Hi, I'm Julie. Welcome to Chicory's Travels. Today I'm going to do a little bit of small kitchen cooking. Now, since I'm still working, I like to try to multitask and prep several different meals at a time, so it's actually going to be a 3-for-1 special. Had a batch of red potatoes, and what I'm going to do is make 3 different items that kind of revolve around the potato as a central piece of them. The recipe and all 3 of these items will be in the article that's linked in the description. One of the things I do every week is make a big batch of veggie soup. We often have this soup for lunch, occasionally for dinner. So all of the things that I'm making today are plant-based. What that means is there's no dairy, eggs, meat, or anything like that. But don't worry if you're an omnivore, because everything that I make can be easily tweaked for the meat eaters to love just as well. As a matter of fact, when our kids aren't vegetarians, when they come to visit, or when we have other family come to visit, I'll often make 2 batches of everything that I'm making. I make everything a certain way, and then I divide it in half for us that stays plant-based, and the other half I just add some type of meat or cheese sauce or something like that, and everyone's satisfied, and it's not that much extra work. So the other 2 things that I'm going to make is, one is a potato salad that we'll often have as a side dish with our lunches, and the other is a shepherd's pie. Now, like I said, I'm plant-based, so my shepherd's pie, instead of having a traditional meat base, has a lentil base. However, as I mentioned before, it's very easy to add meat to it if you prefer. So everything that I'm going to make is going to be using my propane stovetop oven as well as my slow cooker. So the first thing that happens is actually a day beforehand, and that is soaking the beans, because instead of canned beans, I like to use dried beans. So for my vegetable soup, I love these large lima beans. And what I do is I will soak them overnight in my slow cooker. Then first thing the next morning, I'm going to add a half of an onion, a clove of garlic, a little bit of oregano, a little bit of pepper, and I'm going to turn it on high and let it cook for about half the day. And then I'll usually turn it down to low until I'm ready for it. Now I'm getting ready to boil a big batch of potatoes, and whenever I do that, I always save that potato water in a container in the refrigerator, and whenever I'm getting ready to do my beans, I'll use that potato water, which is a form of vegetable broth. So the first thing I'm going to do is I have just some baby red potatoes. I've already washed them. They've been drying in the sink. And now I'm going to just chop them into probably 8s and put them in my pot to boil. And once the potatoes are on to boil, I'll usually turn on the fan to kind of disperse a little bit of that heat so it doesn't get too hot in here. Also with the potatoes, I'm going to add just a clove of garlic, and I just cut it up into big chunks. So that 1 clove of garlic made about 6 pieces, and I just throw that in the potatoes. I also put in a little bit of pepper, and a little bit of whatever kind of herb you like. Today, I think I'm going to go with a little rubbed sage. So, I don't really measure things, but all the recipes do have measurements if you like that. While the potatoes are on to boil, I'm going to saute some carrots, some celery, and some onion. And the sauteed vegetables will actually be used in the shepherd's pie and the soup. Now when I have carrots, I've already washed it off, but the next thing that I like to do is just use a little peeler and do 1 little layer of the outside just to make sure that they're nice and clean. Then I'll also use that on the ends. Make sure I have any dirt off. For the soup, I'm going to actually make these carrots in small little slices, as well as the celery. Now what I'll do is I'll go ahead and chop it all up, all in the same sizes. But when I'm ready to do my ingredients for my shepherd's pie, I'm actually going to use my food processor and grind up the carrots and the celery just a little bit smaller. Okay, I've been sauteing the carrots and the celery for the soup for about 5 minutes. Once they start browning a little bit, then I'll add the onion. Now I'm sauteing this in about a teaspoon of olive oil. While that's cooking, I take the carrots, celery, and garlic that I chopped up at the same time that I'm using for the shepherd's pie, and I put it in my food processor. I also have some onion, but I'm not going to add that yet. In addition, I'll use a little bit of mushrooms. Now, I like to use fresh vegetables whenever possible. I love to go to farmers markets whenever there's one by where we're camped. But sometimes I don't have any on hand, so I'll just use some canned. These are no salt added mushrooms. And I've already drained them. And I'm just going to take like half the can and add it into my food processor and just chop a little bit. I'll follow the same process that I did for the soup. I'll saute this mixture first. After it's been going for about 5 minutes, then I'll add the onion. Now while I'm waiting for the pan to finish with the soup vegetables, I'll start the lentils. So again, I'm using dried lentils, and I'm just going to get a pot, put on a little bit of water, soak the lentils. Now I've got a pot for the lentils, and I've noticed I've kind of overfilled the pot with the potatoes in them. So I'm just going to take some of that water off and put it in the pan that I'm going to use to boil the lentils, and that way they get a little bit of vegetable flavor with them. So I'll just get my soup ladle. And with the lentils, it's really not important to measure how much water you're using. The main thing is to have enough water. But it's not really possible to have too much water. Also, when I'm sauteing the vegetables, sometimes I'll add a little bit. That way I don't have to use as much oil. The lentils are the one thing that I am going to measure. I'm going to do 1/2 cup, so I have 1/4 cup measuring. And I'll put them on to boil. Now the soup vegetables are ready, so what I'm going to do is just add them to the beans that I've been cooking. Now I can use the same pan to start the vegetables for the shepherd's pie. So with these, I'll usually get a butter knife. And while that's starting to saute, I'll add the onions, because I also want to put them in the food processor. and make them just a little bit smaller. Grind up the onions a little bit. And in about 5 minutes, I'll be able to add them to the other mixture that I have sauteing. Okay, I've sauteed the veggie mix for the shepherd's pie, and I have also added the onions. It's been going for about 5 minutes. The onions are starting to get translucent. So now what I'm going to do is add 1/4 cup of soy sauce. I use the less sodium. You can use whichever one you prefer. A tablespoon of maple syrup. And I use a butter knife for the chili garlic sauce. And I just get about that much. It doesn't take much, it gives it just a little kick. Next, I'm going to add about 1/4 cup of oats to the vegetable mixture. And then I'm going to add about half of the lentils. I'll mix that up. Now I'm going to take some more of the lentils and some of the liquid and put it in the food processor. I'm going to blend it just a little bit to make it a little more liquid. Now we'll add that to our veggie mix. And let it saute for another 5 minutes. Okay, I finished with my lentil veggie mix. I have put it in a heavy-duty baking dish. For small RV ovens, you often find in camping stores these really thin aluminum type pans, and I do not like those because the bottom gets burned very easy. So come on, if this is the one thing that's going to make you overweight, then you might want to rethink what you've packed in your camper. So I'm going to use a loaf dish just like that. Now, if I had family visiting, this is going to make 4 servings. And so if I had family visiting and wanted to add a little meat, I could either make a double batch and add meat to that one and use another loaf pan, or I could just split this in half and use 2 of these smaller dishes. Again, they're heavy duty, and do half veggie like I have it and half with meat. Now the potatoes were finished, so I poured the water off. Like I said, I saved that potato water. It also had, remember, garlic and some herbs in it. And I saved that for my next batch of beans. I think maybe I'll do some black beans tomorrow, maybe for some tacos or chili. And now I'm going to mash the potatoes for the topping to our shepherd's pie. So remember, I made a lot of potatoes for 3 different items. One is the shepherd's pie. Now remember, I said that we're totally plant-based, which means I don't use any dairy in our mashed potatoes. And most people in their mashed potatoes, they would use milk and butter. You are totally fine to do that. If you prefer to substitute, you could use soy milk or coconut milk. If you wanted a butter substitute, they have some margarine, Smart Balance, Earth Balance, a lot of different ones that are also plant-based. However, what I do is just use a little bit of the potato water that they were actually cooked in. So I have my potatoes in the bowl. Adding back in a little bit of the potato water. I also have my oven now on preheat to 350. One of the most important things for you when you're cooking in an RV stove, I've found, is to find out what the actual temperature is. Ours runs a little low. If it's on 350, it's not really 350. So in the beginning, I used the thermometer a lot to get it. Now I just know to put it on 400. I'm gonna get my masher and mash up my potatoes. Once my potatoes are mashed, I'm just going to put them right on top of the lentil mix. And you'll see mine aren't whipped. You could use I have a little hand blender and whip them. I like them a little chunky mashed, so. Then I just press them down. If you want, here's where you could add a little butter substitute. If you were using meat, you might add a little gravy. Oh, I have a recipe for a really good mushroom gravy that could go on the top. But we actually like them just like this. We herbed them a little bit when we were boiling them, if you recall. So they're perfect, just like that. And then it just goes right in the oven. Now I'm going to take some more of the potatoes and add them to the soup. So remember, I had dried lima beans cooking. I added the mixture of the onion, celery, and carrots. That's been going for a little while now. And I'm just going to add some of the potatoes that we cooked. Probably 2 spoonfuls. Stir it up. The next thing I'm going to add to my soup is a 1/4 cup of peas and a 1/4 cup of corn. And I prefer fresh, but if I don't have it, then I use frozen. And I say a 1/4 cup, but I don't actually measure. Here, we'll do nice and nice. After you've been making it for a while, you'll find out exactly how you like it and make the exact amount that you want. Final ingredient for the veggie soup is tomatoes. Now, again, like I said, I like to have it fresh. If I don't have fresh tomatoes and jalapenos, then I use these canned petite cut zesty jalapeno tomatoes. I just put a whole can in. And a can of tomato sauce. This one is basil, garlic, oregano. Actually, the final ingredient is not the tomatoes. The final ingredient is the curled barley. And I put about 1/8 of a cup. Stir it up. And we'll leave it in the slow cooker on low for another hour or two, pretty much just for the rest of the evening. And then when I'm cleaning up after dinner, I'll go ahead and put it in the refrigerator. Okay, the final item I said I was going to make with the potatoes is some potato salad. So I'll just get the rest of these potatoes out. Put them in a large mixing bowl. It's about 2 cups of potatoes in there. I'm going to take some onion, a little bit of carrot, some bell peppers. So really it can just be any type of veggies that you like with a cold salad. And instead of mayonnaise, because we're plant-based, I'm going to use some light balsamic vinaigrette. It's really great. We'll mix it all together, chill it, and it'll be ready to go. Alright, when you take it out of the oven, allow it to sit for about 5 minutes just to cool a little bit so it'll firm up. Serve it up on a plate. I usually do like a roll and a little salad. That's some good stuff there. One last tip. Key to small kitchen cooking stages, do the dishes between every single stage. So I have a little double sink here, luckily. That makes it pretty easy. But I'll wash dishes as I go along. That way, when we finished eating, all I have to wash is this final baking dish and our plate. I hope you've enjoyed this video and it's helped giving you some ideas of things that you can cook in your small RV kitchen. If you'd like to see more, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. And please tell us in the comments what you thought about it and if there's other things that you'd like us to record.